Okay, welcome back again, everybody. And again, my name is Mike Inhabitant. I'm with ChristiansDeceived.com. And this week, Lesson 6, Recognizing Jesus, and this is based on the printed text of Mark 5, 1 through 13 and 18 through 20. Now, bound by chains. This week, as we look at this demon-possessed man, we're going to see at one part where he's bound by chains. And we see that oftentimes we ourselves will be bound up in chains as we try to deal with life situations. Others may place those chains upon us, as in the case of this man that we're going to talk about. We may place those chains on ourselves as we try within our own strength possibly to deal with some of the situations that we face. What are we doing with ourselves in times of despair? How are we dealing with our circumstances? You know, there's in this section in Mark, the disciples and we're dealing with the storm, crashing waves and winds and all these things that as they travel across the lake or the Sea of Galilee to this particular area which we're going to focus on today. And we're facing, as we look at our culture and the day we find ourselves, we are also in the midst of a storm. As we look around us at this world, we see the winds of change taking place. We see in democracy struggling, especially we see that with our culture. We see across this world, we see the demagogues once again raising themselves. It's like you know, all of a sudden we see these dominant personalities starting to take control of nations again. Nations moving to governments of pure authority based on the whims of a few individuals. And we see these storms raging all around us, and as we do, are we losing sight of Jesus? Do we recognize Jesus? And as we go through this week's lesson, I think some of the things we need to think about is the key verse. It says, Jesus said, "Go home to your family and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how He has had mercy on you." You know, that's something for us to key in on. Thinking about all that God has done for us, and think about the story we have to tell and share with others of all that He has given us. And as we look at this world, this taking good and turning it into bad, and taking bad and turning it into good, this upside down period we're looking at, are we telling the story of Jesus Christ and what He means to us? Or are we shackling individuals? Are we putting others in chains and keeping them there because we're fearful of sharing the message of Jesus Christ? So let's look at first Mark 5, 1 through 5. Need for deliverance. They went across the lake to the region of Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet Him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him any more, not even with a chain, for he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. So we see Jesus and His disciples moving to a different section of Galilee. And this particular section is a pagan area. It's about 35 miles southeast of the shore of Sea of Galilee. And this area, if you were to look at it, has large cliffs with pretty steep drops, which become important as we go through these scriptures. But we find first that this man, as Jesus gets off the boat, we see what? A man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet Jesus. So we know that this demon is not able to prevent the man from going to Jesus. And second, the man has hope that Jesus can do something for him. Even this man is possessed, he still recognizes Jesus Christ. The evil spirit came from the tombs to meet him. it says they've tried, the people of this area have tried their best to control this man. They've chained him, they've bound him up many different ways, but yet the demon spirit within him, the strength, was able to break through these chains. And it says, from a demonic perspective, the shackles only have added to the alienation and ostracism that he has felt, despite any good intentions. The efforts so far have been in vain to restrain this man. The supernatural power of Satan was more than they could control with any type of chain. The chains of disapproval and exclusion are often mental as well as physical. And we see that this man is night and day among the tombs and the hills, crying, cutting himself. And they're trying their best to tune this man out, put him off somewhere, keep him there, chain him down. Hopefully we can ignore this guy, but of course with all the yelling and screaming they find it hard to do that. We see mention of this cutting himself, and we have what we call a delicate self-cutting syndrome, and it's estimated that some 3 million people in this country are between the ages of 12 and 30 are affected by this illness, and females account for 70% of these cutters. And one of the things that they often say is that in order to alleviate the pain they have within, they cut themselves to at least have a temporary relief from the pain that they're suffering internally. How many people are suffering in the chains of this world that have, maybe we've put them in the chains, in the bondage, we've excluded them, we've put them away from us, and we've allowed these people to remain in that internal turmoil. Now maybe they're not cutting themselves, but they're showing other self-destructive behaviors. What are we doing as Christians to try and get them back in instead of keeping them out? That's not what Jesus was about. He was not about keeping people out. He wanted none to perish. He wants all to come to know the saving grace of Jesus Christ. So, are we guilty, as these people were, of taking this man with this demon-possessed man and ostracizing him, just placing him out on the outskirts of town? Are we guilty of doing that in our church with people that don't look like us, don't dress like us, don't act like us? Are we guilty? Hey, I have to look at myself. I've got a half-brother. Me and him are polar opposites in terms of world views and everything. But do I just kick him to the curb, or do I try to get him back in? Do I try to help him with the chains that hold him down, or do I place the chains on him? These are things that we all have to think about as we look around us day to day in our communities, in our churches, and in our workplaces. The next section, it says action of deliverance. In verses 6 through 13, when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Swear to God that you won't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs were feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Interesting. Now we see first in this section, we see that this demon-possessed man falls down at the knees of Jesus, not to worship him. He recognizes the authority of Jesus, but not to worship him.